Just hang on a sec, Catherine, we'll sort out.
Oh.
People don't carry cash back. That's why I said he's got a card reader.
I tell you what, why don't
We had another table out and Lester said he wasn't coming, so we moved it back up.
Beth. Let me know when I get back.
That's my fault, I'm sorry.
When I cracked my head on a BMW.
Oh, you've heard that? Don't carry cash. You don't carry the
Is that in the four of you on that road?
There's a spare one here.
Property. It's me.
Oh my gosh.
I've been to Bracebridge. I think it's the 24th.
I'm doing another one in
So this is the favourite. This is the guy's drive.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you. That's the last
I'll let you know. No, got spare on the board.
I
Unfold
didn't
it.
But it was magic. I think we were out last night.
We're recording and streaming. Chair, we're good to go.
We are online, are we?
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, bring to order. Don't I have to read something out of that fire? Oh, God, stop. It's all right. I'm just waiting for the words I have to read out regarding recording, regarding fire.
You're a thespian, you should be able to.
No, you've got to have exactly the precise words. You end up in jail.
After all these
I mean, you
years.
don't have to, but it's helpful. Good evening and welcome to this meeting of Woodley Town Council Strategy and Resources Committee being held on the 25th of November 2025. Woodley Town Council meetings are now recorded, streamed live and stored on the Town Council's YouTube channel. By virtue of attending the meeting, you consent to having your image and audio recorded for this purpose. If you do not wish for your image and audio to be recorded, then please do not stay for the meeting. For those in attendance, we're not expecting a fire drill tonight, so if you hear the fire alarm, please head to the nearest fire exit and congregate at the fire assembly point by the Oakwood Centre at the front of Woodford Park. Where is the nearest fire exit for here?
Fire exits on the door on the right there. There's also fire exit straight ahead.
Thank you. So, first of all, do we have any apologies? We're all here. And well done to everyone coming. It's quite a rarity. Declarations of interest. Anybody got any declarations of interest? Nope. Minutes of the meeting held on the 10th of June 2025. We've had them in on the full council. Can we have a vote so that I can approve the minutes? All those in favour, please show. Thank you. Actions and follow-up, page 7. Anything you want to say?
Thank you, Chair. There's a couple there I can provide a bit of update on. One in particular, minute 41 in relation to the lease for Weevil Park Play Area. I've been liaising with Reading Borough Council regarding the legal fees which they'd stated for surrender of the existing lease and drawing up of the new one. They did come back and confirm this week that they could reduce the surveyor fee which sat on top of that, but not the legal fee. So I've escalated that to the chief exec. I did get a response today to say that that's now with the executive director for economic growth and neighbourhood services for review and response. So the suggestion was that we could split the cost of the legal fees for the lease on the basis that it's in both the councils' interests, really. So.
Okay. Is there any questions, Alison?
You don't need to talk. They're all on. That's fine.
I just wanted to ask about item 73, the borehole at the allotments. You
Yes.
don't seem to have made any progress. I have
Yes.
had a resident contact us about this.
Yes, and there is a question from that resident going to full council. What I do have is a quote back, having contacted several companies, and the quote for that was in the region of £37,500 for installation. And what I don't have from that, and I'm trying to ascertain, is exactly what the offset would be in terms of water generation and offset from mains water. So there's some more work to do around that, but it's a bigger project than I think we thought when it was first mooted as a potentially good idea. So that's where that is at the moment.
You okay? Any other questions?
Just
Kester?
one. Evening, everybody. Thanks for your update on the Weeble Park. So Matthew was going to ask the same question that Kevin's given information for. Just one question. What the £40,000 that projected on?
So we're
The
doing on
allocation of funds replacement.
we're at on that action, 41. So what you're talking about isn't on the actions and follow-up
Oh.
yet.
Page 50.
So that's for later in the agenda.
Actions and follow-ups at the moment.
Okay?
Yep.
Any specific other questions on the actions and follow-ups? If not, I will move on the agenda. Finance, payments, Appendix 5A, to note the payments. This is pages after pages. Any questions on any item in those pages? Otherwise, we'll just note. Greg, yep.
Yeah, just a quick question. On page 10, the payment for Journey Recruitment, what was that in relation to?
As in relation to the recruitment of our finance officer.
Okay, thank you. I thought, yeah.
Any other questions? Okay, then that's been noted. So let's move on to the next agenda item, which is B, CCLA, PSDF funds, Appendix 5B. Any questions, I guess, for Derek? No? All happy with that? Okay. So that's noted. And then item C, page 27 onwards, the internal audit, to receive the first interim internal audit. Do you want to make any comments?
Yes, please. Thank you, Chair. So this is to receive the first interim audit report. And if I can probably just move to the recommendations within that report, you always set out very helpfully. There's three there, one being in relation to the grant for Woodley Carnival. And the auditor commented he would actually like to see that decision made in a slightly different way. It's always sat within the budget as a budget line, and although the budget gets agreed with that in it, what he wanted to see was a specific decision around that, so that it was treated in the same way as other grants. So there was kind of less argument that there was any prejudgment concerned. So I'll be contacting the Carnival in that regard, so that they know to apply for that in the way that others do. He also commented we had omitted the business rates from the direct debit mandate list, which goes to full council, so that will be added. And there was a comment there in relation to discounted rates under the scheme of delegation, and wanting to see those rates and reported annually back to full council as well. So we'll be doing that. There's a comment regarding Woodford Park Leisure Centre invoicing, and for that to be moved to the new finance system as soon as possible, which is a work in progress. The system itself is now live. We're operating on it and working through some teething problems, which you might expect, but actually it's in place and working, and then the leisure centre will come online with that. And there is a piece of work which we've started to make sure all contracts of employment are completely up to date for all staff, which was noted because the auditor checked a few and found there were some that either weren't up to date or there wasn't one in the file.
So can I just ask why that wasn't done after the last audit? Was it just an omission or?
Yeah, and we'd done a piece of work on it, but there were still some that hadn't been done. So we're making sure that is completely done. I'll report back when that's complete.
Thank you.
You didn't mention the discounts for regular hires.
Yes, I did, Chair, but I mentioned again, that was just he wanted to see a list of those discounted hires reported back to full council. So anything that's not on the standard rate record.
Surely those discount rates are commercially sensitive.
Wouldn't have to necessarily include who those hires are. It was more so that the council has oversight of the extent of which.
My
those discounted
concern
rates
is
apply.
that regardless of putting a name to a discount, if someone is getting a 10% discount and they see somebody else is getting a 40% discount, it may get some pushback. So
I think we can provide that in an anonymised way that shows.
well, you can't anonymise the discount, the actual number. What I was going to suggest for you to look at is if that particular is not published, but councillors get to know it in a sort of part 2 type.
Yeah, it was more to do with the value than the organisations or individuals.
I'm still edgy about, even if you put value, people can you just think about it?
Question it with the auditor as I can see where that might be the case, and we can ask for some feedback from the auditor on that and understand what that recommendation is based on, because obviously, yeah, as you say, if you tell people, you give people 20% rates, then they might know why. So.
Okay. So any other questions on the audits? Nope. Right. Oakwood Centre income update. I guess that's the sheet.
Yes, so that's there's some text there and the chart on page 36, which shows room hire income tracking below the budget at this point in the year, but we do know there's some uninvoiced bookings at this point in the year, which will change the picture as we report on it as we go through the rest of the year. Catering income is the chart on page 37, which you're used to seeing, which shows that tracking above the budgeted rate, and that is up to date as at end of October.
Any questions, comments? Okay.
Kevin, why do we feel that we're falling below the revised target budget line?
As I said, we've got some uninvoiced bookings which have been late being invoiced, and we've been trying to track that back and see if that was consistent with last year at this point in the year. We do need to do some analysis on that to see whether that's a decrease in bookings or whether that's just an invoicing issue at this point. So I can't tell you at this stage whether that's a dip in actual bookings or what type of bookings those are.
Was it an over-ambitious target that?
Can I just chip in? I think that one of the better figures to look at is where we were at this stage last year, which was only £2,000 higher up. So we are tracking below where we were last year, and this year's figure in the budget was set based on an RPI increase on income from last year. So we are slightly tracking below. We're working on some marketing strategies internally to try and increase and get some extra bookings in between January and March. And our venues manager is pretty confident with some big bookings still to come in that are not invoiced for those periods, and also with some targeted marketing that we should be able to get back up to very close to what that budget is, which is why that figure later on in the budget is the estimate for the end of the year is still at that 107 rate. So there is a bit of work to do to get it to catch up, but at the moment we're not a mile off where we were last year, and we think there's going to be some more coming in.
Any other questions? Okay, that was to note. Bookings and room hire. Any questions on the catering income? Which is the page 37. Nope. Okay.
What percentage are we getting from that at the minute?
That would be commercially sensitive,
Oh, okay.
but we can tell you outside of the meeting.
I can circulate that.
Thank you.
Did you send it to all of us?
Yes, of course.
Okay. In that case, thank you for allowing us to get to the meaty part very quickly. So we're now into item 7. Which one do you want to just sort of introduce this?
Yeah, I can do that, Chair. So there's a proposal for this committee here to set up a strategy task and finish group to provide that bit of work and work towards the strategy that we've been talking about for some time. What you will have seen circulated today through conversations with the chair of this committee, there's an amended terms of reference which has been circulated with a proposal that that group be set up by full council and appointed to and report directly to full council as opposed to this committee, which was the original intention.
Right, so if I can explain my rationale of the change. First of all, I thought that 3 to 5 year period planning is actually probably the most important thing that this council needs to do for the future. And therefore, I thought it needed the better authority of a full council, or the weighting of this activity for full council, so that all councillors can be involved in some way or another, rather than coming through the SNR. The second thing there changed, and it goes with my same view, that this is a very, very important committee, and it's talking about a 3 to 5 year financial period, which will impact all the standing committees. And so my proposal for membership was that the mayor should chair it. Again, it's giving it that gravitas. The chairs or deputy chairs of the 3 standing committees, because they understand their spending plans more than the rest of us. So I think they need to be part of that. And then excluding the ruling administration's party, I want to broaden this out to be as inclusive as possible. So regardless of size of a group, I'm recommending that the leader of each group, other than the administration, should also be a member of this committee, rather than do a proportional split. I think with that mix, hopefully nobody can turn around and say it's not bipartisan, it's people looking at what is the right thing to do for this council, and leaving the political hats or whatever on the outside the door before you come in. And then the final thing was this was originally aimed to just set up this 3 to 5 year period or financial period, but what do you do then afterwards? So the proposal is that initially it's a task and finish working group to focus on mine, so it just doesn't grind on to get that done. And I think it's April, for its implementation, April 2027. It should automatically convert to a subcommittee, which is the regular committee, to do the monitoring. And the monitoring should be at a very high level, identifying the areas that seem to be off track, and then that alert goes down to the relevant standing committee that owns that budget. So it's almost like a board sitting above. Look, when we've got the plan, highlighting at an earlier stage to the chairs of the standing committees. That's basically it. So any questions on, are we all in general agreement? Mike?
Just a quick question, Chairman, on the proposed size of the task and finish group. You mentioned chair or deputy chair. Am I to assume that in the absence of the chair, the deputy chair will take their place at that meeting?
Yes. And in an ideal scenario, if the chair does not believe that it's appropriate for them to be on this committee, then the deputy chair takes it for the whole duration. It's not, and that's why I didn't say substitute. it's not a substitute, it's either or. That was my view. You know, you may think differently, but I want to see continuity, because this is the future of this town council, and it needs people fully committed and that continuity going in, you know, through. Does that help you, Mike?
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions? Do I need to get a proposer and seconder on this?
That'd be helpful. Yeah.
Well, I'll propose it. Can I have a seconder? Okay, all those in favour, please show.
Thank you.
Great. So that means, doesn't it, we can now, at full council,
That will go to full council.
and full council, well, we don't really need to have nominations because we know who those individuals are. Okay. Thank you very much on that.
I'm sorry, and how often would you see that meeting?
The meetings say here, as and when required.
Yeah.
So it needs to be a minimum.
I think
You know, you're at the sharp end of this.
Yeah, and I think there's some discussion to be had around that, particularly in the first stages at this point, and then that might look different when it's more of a monitoring.
I would
but
just
actually
like to
there's
see
quite
a
a bit of
number
work to
against
do.
that rather than as and when.
Yeah.
Okay. How would you like Juliet to handle that? If Kevin and the team come up with a recommendation, circulate it around, and if nobody's got a problem with it,
And we'll include that in the terms of reference to go to full council.
yeah. And that means also the first meeting of the working group won't necessarily be 2 months away. That was also behind my thinking. Okay, item 8, the precept consultation. Over to you.
Thanks, Chair. So this is to note the 1,174 responses that were received and the breakdown there, which shows the percentage of responses against suggested increase levels on a monthly amount shown in pence. Just to note, because I realise it's not clear in that item, the options 1 to 3 there represent 10%, 6% and 2% increase respectively. So that's what those.
And the 89, the increase is a monthly increase, isn't it?
Yeah, yes, that's monthly, and that represents 10%.
I'll take members first. Any questions on that? If not, I'll go straight to June.
Well, this is just a question really. I'm not quite sure how we're going to use this. You remember at full council, I raised my concerns about the quality of this as a query. But I mean, just looking at it now, and the responses back, it's telling us that I think it's 58% of our residents are saying they want to cut in real terms the money we're spending. How are we going to use this? I mean, because, 2% option 3, that's well short of the current inflation rate. That's a cut, isn't it? We're going to be some interesting discussions later on.
My answer, and then I'll let Kevin stroke Darren, is there are areas that we don't automatically increase RPI. And the key areas, which is the biggest income generators, pretty well, are things like the leisure centre. There isn't an automatic RPI. What they do is they do a comparison and see what's appropriate for the market they're in. We do something similar. We see what our fellow town councils, Wokingham and Early do, to see a comparison, seeing how are we doing with them. But Kevin.
I think that's what we're getting in. I'm thinking about inflation affects what we're buying.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
But
we have no control over the cost of the goods that we're bringing in.
there's a dynamic, say Roger is saying RPI is 10%, right? You automatically increase the rental period of rental cost of a room here, for instance, or the theatre by 10%. You then make yourself 5% dearer than everybody else. So yes, tick in the box, but you potentially lose revenue.
Yeah, but you're not listening to what I've said. I'm not talking about, we've got control over those prices and we can put them up, put them down, do whatever we like with them. We don't have any control over the price of loo rolls and soap and stuff that we buy. And I mean, if you look at that list of stuff, earlier on in the agenda of things that we signed off invoices for, they will all be affected by inflation as well. It's not just the income, it's the outgoing. So if we cut down the amount of income we've got, it will have an impact on real things, and that's what we need.
And this will be, as we get to the next item, this is something that really,
Yes.
Can I finish my sentence first, please? The item there is a classic item for the 3 to 5 year plan. What is the plan related to precept? Is it to keep it as low as possible? Is it to raise automatically with RPI? This meeting is not to decide what that is. You've made your point very clear, and I'm fully aware of it because you and I have had this conversation about 3 times. All right? So that will be, and you will be on as leader of Labour, assuming, right?
I'm talking specifically about this agenda item, about the precept consultation. And I'm just saying, I don't think that the quality of what we asked about is going to actually help us too much in the later things.
That's been noted.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. Any other questions? So we go on to the monitoring budget, item 9, appendix 9, page 39. Would you like to introduce this? Either of you?
Thank you. I will hand over to Darren in a moment. There was just a couple of things I wanted to point out first by way of introduction. Now, this is the first time that members will have seen this format of budget reported in this way. It's also the first time you've seen the budget for this year and the budget for forecast for next year this early in the year, and that's part of what we've been trying to do so that members have an opportunity to see that much earlier in the year, time to consider it, and not just have it parked with you in January to make a decision when that time comes. I wanted to just stress at this stage that the committee's been asked to consider this information and digest it and provide officers with some guidance. Of course, we can answer questions now and at any time as we move forwards. There is a lot of information in there, and there is more information available, which will be available to all members as we move forwards. So anyone who wants any more information or clarification, please do contact us as we go forwards through this process, because we won't flesh it all out tonight, but if you do have questions tonight, please do ask. One thing I just want to frame as well before I hand over is that you'll see that the anticipated outturn for this year at year end is slightly better than forecast in January when the budget and precept were approved back in February. So we've managed the budget well through the year, and the current position is largely as was forecast at that point. It's next year and beyond that we've got some challenges, decisions to make, and options to look at. I'll hand over to Darren to take you through the budget monitoring.
Yeah, so the budget monitoring report, everyone on appendix 9, I mean, don't propose to go through every little detail behind it. I mean, there are a lot of details in the appendices. So again, if you've got questions on them tonight or later on, I'd be happy to field those. But it's just to draw your attention to the headlines in terms of the budget monitoring position. So at this stage of the year, we're currently forecasting a net expenditure of £50,000 in excess of the approved budget. So the budget, if you recall, was approved at £138,000. We're forecasting a spend of 188,000, which is the difference of 50,000. But also what I'd like to draw to your attention regarding that £50,000 is that the lion's share of that £37,000 is because of the memorial grounds costs, which we should have been expensed in last year's accounts, but they haven't. We've had to expense them this year to remove them from the balance sheet. So as that is an historic cost, if we were just to strip that out for a second, your true position is a £13,000 overspend, which in the context of the overall budget is about 0.5% of your gross spend. And officers are pretty confident with 5 months of the year to go that we can mitigate that further to try and reach a sort of break-even point by the year end, or as close to it as possibly can. That's notwithstanding anything left field that happens between now and then, but just in a normal course of business. There are, of course, compensating variances throughout the budget, as would naturally happen, but the volume of those is quite large. It's quite a complex area to try and thrash out in this evening's meeting. So, but as I said, happy to take any questions you might have picked up now or later on, if you want to take away the details and digest them at a later point.
Yeah, can I just ask, you said that officers are confident that they can mitigate. They can mitigate against the 50, or they can mitigate against the 37 minus.
Well, the whole picture really, the first focus will be on the 13 that's remaining, okay? Because the 37 is left field, it's from last year. If we can extend beyond that, then obviously we will. But obviously that's a bigger target to achieve. But there's still 5 months left of the year. As Matt alluded to earlier, there'll be strategies being implemented in the January to March to try and boost income, which is probably going to be the most likely source of that mitigation.
I'd also say that historically, if you see a picture of where we end the year compared to where our revised forecasts are in January, we normally are slightly better on expenditure and income. So that sort of 13 grand at what we're looking at this year, you would expect on tradition that would be more favourable by the actual end of year figures.
Okay, and we're just writing off the 37.
No, not necessarily. I mean, we're not going to rely on history, but we know that is a factor. So we're not saying we're writing it off, but we're targeting. We're more confident about the 13, obviously initially, and then once we see how far we get on track with that, we'll report back and let you know how we're doing against the remaining 50.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Sorry, Mike.
That's right. It's just the TV.
Thank you, Chair. The £37,000 is bugging me, I guess. Is this the amount of money that was paid for by the charity, the Oakwood Memorial Charity? We're all charitable trustees. Is that what we're saying?
Yes.
And it was in that account, and it should have been in the town council's account, because the town council gives effectively income to the charity, so the charity is balanced. Is that what we're saying?
Yes, the charity makes a contribution towards the cost of those grounds. So that was the historic position as at the 31st of March 2025.
Been formalised through full council and through the meeting of the charity, which it hadn't been at that point, which is how it drifted year on year and ended up with the figure. Yeah, you're right.
Any other questions? Okay, so that's to note. And then move on to the next one, which is on page 41, which is the budget bill, medium-term budget, etc. Before I throw it open to the officers to introduce it and then to members of the committee, I just want to put some ground rules, because we've agreed that we've got this strategy task and finish working group, and they will be looking at what should we be doing, what shouldn't we be doing, etc. So what I would respectfully ask all councillors, that if they've got a particular bee in the bonnet about, well, what's happened to, you promised me XK for this, what's happened to it, etc. Please, this is not that meeting to talk about this, okay? What we're talking about here is you use the word guidance, don't you?
Yes.
That officers need a guidance, a steer from what we as a council, as councillors, want them to focus on. Because there's probably 40,000 items in the budget when you go drill down. They need to get guidance from us where do you focus? So guidance. So please, if you're asking questions, remember that, keep that bearing in mind. And the actual decision on precepts and other specific will be in our traditional January, February cycle. So we've got a specific dedicated meeting of the SNR, single agenda item budget coming up. And that would be the more appropriate for asking about things. So I'm not picking on you, Kester, but the Weeble Park stuff would be discussed in that forum where it be discussed in the context of everything and it won't be rushed. That we've got to finish at 10 o'clock, etc. It's a complete 2-hour dedicated, longer if necessary, on that. So the final thing is you've been given that. This was my attempt at trying to put a structure. How would you structure the agenda items, for instance, in that meeting on the 16th of December? Because we are all notorious that we go off on tangents that are very important to us, and we spend 20 minutes, 30 minutes discussing whether the loo paper should be white or green or something like that. I'm being trivial, but I think you understand. This is very important. And so I put this together as a suggested structure, talking about 4 key actions, which are actually what Kevin and team have put in this document as well, to say these are the areas we should be looking at. And then I've given examples of some of them, but therefore the 16th of December to look at it. It's not for here. It was just trying to put a structure so that we don't waste a single minute of that meeting. Now I'm going to hand over to Kevin, Darren, etc. to pick up.
Okay, I'll let you take that one down.
Sorry,
I've done the
Kester
legwork.
doesn't have one of these because it's. Okay, so we're talking about the budget bill for 26-27 and the medium-term budget, which we've looked at for the 3 following financial years up to 28-29. So the report in the pack, which is relatively brief, identifies all the salient points and the headlines regarding the budget bill process. Obviously, the actual numbers behind it are far more complex and far more detailed than what you can see in the report, and those figures are available in the additional appendix that was shared, which is that document. I don't propose to go through all those numbers today, but what I wanted to draw your attention to was the graph that I handed around. That will help you visualise the current budget position and the potential, and I'll stress the word potential trajectory based on assumptions and modelling that we've made at this point in time. It doesn't pick up, obviously, things that will get discussed in the meeting later on on the 16th. So if we look at the graph, the solid lines on the graph represent what has actually happened in the past. So we've gone back to the year 21-22, and then we're moving forward to the year 28-29, just to give you a bit of context. As I said, the solid lines are what's happened. Okay, so that brings us up to the end of 2024-25. Okay, the larger dashes are where we are currently heading in the current financial year. So we're fairly confident that trajectory is as stated. So coming back to the previous report, that picks up the variance to budget of £50,000 that we talked about. it's the small dotted lines, the trajectory that we need to draw your attention to, and in particular the red line, which represents the general reserve. Okay, so based on current trajectory, that will diminish, and at some point in 27-28, potentially will be completely eroded, gone. Okay, now the reasons for that again can be seen in the graphs. If you look at the top two lines, your yellow line, which is your gross expenditure, okay, and your green line, which is your total income, you'll see that they are starting to diverge away from each other, okay, and the reason for that is because the pace of cost increase is far outweighing the pace of the increases in income, and the reasons for that is in the main that there are lots of, obviously most areas are affected by RPI, but other areas are affected by a much higher rate of inflation. So for example, your utilities bills, water, gas, electric, they're impacted by inflation rates that range between 8 and 26% is what's currently being forecast. Water in particular is increasing significantly. The cost of staffing, obviously everyone gets a pay award in April, which we've currently forecast at 3.5%. Okay, they're all incremental on their pay scale if they're not already at the top of their pay scale every year. So there's an incremental progression. The one piece of good news that we received today, actually, which these forecasts won't include at the moment, so there will be a little bit of good news, is that the employees' pension contribution rates for the next 3 years were released today. They've actually, for the first time that I can ever remember, they've gone down. Okay, so we're currently contributing at 27.2% of staff salaries. From April, it'll be 24.9%. So it's gone down by just over 2 percentage points, which is quite a significant reduction.
In terms of numbers?
Well, I think over the 3 year period, it's about 100 grand. I think we're going to save. I mean, I need to model that properly, but that's quite a big contribution over that period. And certainly in the current year, it's a swing of around £40,000 from plus 19 to sort of minus 21, something like that. So that is one good news item. So it's a step in the right direction. Okay, so basically the next port of call is to look at strategies to reverse what's happening. So bring income and expenditure closer together. Okay, stop the reduction in general reserves and get that built up to a level that the council deems appropriate for a council of this size to hold, and that has to have some resemblance to their expenditure. So I won't be going into that element in detail. That will be for the next meeting, but that's the underlying strategy. So the idea of the graph was just to try and give you that picture of where we're heading if we don't take action now. So rather than looking at each year in isolation, it's to try and develop that rolling 3-5 year strategy of looking ahead. So decisions you make today, you understand the implications of those in years 2, 3, 4 and 5. Okay.
Just a question. Is there any sort of implication on how the assets of Woodley Council have been included in here? Valuation, if it's going up or down or that sort of thing? Loan repayments, that sort of thing.
Well, yeah. I mean, so the impact of the loans that we have are factored in here. So we know what the repayments are going to be right up until the last loan is repaid in 2044, something like that.
All fixed.
So that, so we know the values, so that they will be factored in. In terms of asset values, I mean, they don't feature in the income and expenditure account because there's no requirement on town councils to account for depreciation, so they're just held at book value. Obviously, the only impact that would occur in the income and expenditure account for us will be maintaining those assets, so there'll be a priority list in terms of what works need to be done, so they will be factored in. Indeed, that's part of the capital
so there's repairs.
Is part of the pack later on.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Just a question. In total income, does that include the interest on stuff in the reserve?
Yes, that's everything, absolutely.
So you'd expect if we're spending the reserve, that's going to go down as well, the interest?
Yeah, the interest will reduce as we move forward, largely because at the end of this year, we are scheduled to make a repayment to the PWLB of £1.2 million, which we're currently holding in one of our investment accounts. So once that's gone, interest will fall, but then so will loan repayment. So there is a bit of a trade-off there. Yeah.
Any other questions? Interesting, eh? The key thing, I think, is this 3 to 5 year.
Yeah, but
plan.
really helpful, actually, to see the divergence and see, you know, we can do something about it now. It's not like we've left it until that, you know, that gap is so enormous that it's too difficult to come back from. Because if you draw a straight line down now, where we are now, there is divergence, but it isn't hideous.
No.
So, you know, we need a plan, don't we? 3 to 5 year plan.
It's just the time that those plans will take to bear fruit. That's what needs to be considered when formulating this plan.
But we need to start doing that now, otherwise we're going to be in the same position, in a worse position in a year's time. So,
Any other questions? So the this structure, not definitive. Presumably we've got to get a vote.
There is a recommendation in the
Okay.
report, Chair, to hold that additional.
Which page for the
So
recommendation?
it's that. It's
Okay. Right, so the recommendation is on page 43, section 4.3, which is different to what we normally do, have our recommendation at the end. Yeah. Recommended committee calls on an extraordinary meeting in December, provisionally Tuesday, the 16th of December, depending on availability. All those in favour for that? Thank you.
9-4.
And then,
Before you go on, I've been racking my brains as to what to say here. Are we to try and give the officers a steer as to the level of precept we would like to see now, or is that for the meeting on the 16th of December?
my suggestion is it's part of a steer on expenses, a steer on capital spend, it's a steer on precept, which would be for the 16th.
So do you want to steer now for the meeting on the 16th?
no.
You don't?
No.
So how are they going to put together a budget for the 16th if they're not giving a steer?
The 16th is to define that steer and then flesh it out.
So when do we agree the precept?
January, February. Because we'll give them a guidance of what we want, where our priorities are, etc. They'll go away and they'll come back with a budget best fitted to what we've asked to do. All right. And that will have ramifications, particularly on the precept, because if we ask them to do everything we want to do, I know from the data that Darren and Kevin has said, we would actually have to increase the precept by about 28%, wasn't it? Right. And that is not, we just can't do that. So we have to prioritise what we want to do.
I'm inclined to agree with Mike to some extent. I know it's really difficult to do modelling, but it would be really lovely for the 16th to have some high level modelling of just some picks and points, so that we've got a sense.
I was just going to add in, obviously we have been doing that on some of those obvious things. And
I would
think
find
it
that
be
very helpful on the 16th.
And I think that will give members more information to provide us with a better steer at that point. So yes, we are.
Roughly every 1% is around about 10,500.
Okay. But to have that
and that's fairly
just on a
static
quick graph
because
would
we're
be-
not, it used to grow because we used to be building houses. We're not doing that anymore. So it's fairly static, the Band D number. So it's about 10,500. So.
Chairman, I've got a question on capital expenditure. Capital expenditure doesn't affect our precept unless there are revenue implications arising from the capital expenditure.
Agreed.
So, for example, the Weeble Park play equipment, I don't want to see that jeopardised because of the financial situation, because apart from maintaining that equipment, there are no revenue implications of that capital expenditure.
And that's the debate that we'll have on the 16th, because I know Kester's going to have an even stronger desire for that.
Well, it's my board as well.
Yes,
so
I understand that. What I'm saying
keen to
is,
see that go
this is
through.
not the time to do that, because with the December the 16th meeting, we can spend 20 minutes or whatever on that, because that's what it's dedicated to do, to look at those specific things. And it's not that far away, what I was going to say, once we've moved on, is I would ask all of you, where you've got things like that which you passionately believe in, that you're really going to fight your corner, that's great, please do it, but please alert these guys, Kevin, that, that's what you're going to do, so that they can do the legwork behind the scenes to say, right, this is what you're asking for, this is the impact, so that the December 16th meeting can then look at the total picture and say, yeah, we totally agree, we can do that, we will pass. Or it might be, we want to do it, we have to postpone it because we don't have the means at this moment in time.
If I could just chip in on a couple of things, just to follow up on the modelling. One of our intentions is obviously, with this giving us a remit to look at what options are available to us, our intention is to go away and start doing some high level checks on what that might look like, what the sort of financials look like and what those decisions are. And we might come up with a big long list of things that are options. You might come up with your own in the meantime. You might want to contact us for that, but we can have that list of options to consider and see what you want to do. And the reason we need to take a steer from you guys is because it is a change in kind of the way the focus of the council has been over the last years, and we can't just take that as officers. So that's for the 16th. And in terms of those capital expenditures, a lot of those were due to come to this meeting for some sort of consideration and discussion. I know the leisure one's later in here, but with the financial picture, the aim is to defer those and bring those back probably in January when the financial picture is a bit clearer, and then those decisions that we made will be in a much better financial position to make those decisions and take those decisions. So it's definitely not an intention to either can those, but to take those decisions at a better time when that information is, and that is January, where we've still got, it's only a couple of months away, so it doesn't really delay anything.
Darren.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, it's my intention as Chair of Leisure Services to, obviously, I've already spoken to Kevin about some of these issues. Hopefully we will get some more detailed options around our operating budget as well as our capital budget, because they are two different things to be treated in different ways, and the money comes from other sources. They're not always mutually the same. I'm going to get us together, Mike, as a Leisure Services team before the 16th, hopefully, so that we can all have a little bit of a chinwag over a few drinks, maybe around my house or something like that. We'll go to the pub, depending on what people want to do, or maybe even here actually. But the idea is to sort of work through some of those and then decide amongst us what we feel is the priority in terms of operating expenditure and also capital projects. So it doesn't necessarily mean, for example, that Weeble Park will have to be sacrificed for something else, because we haven't made that decision yet. Well, I think there are so many moving parts in the overall budget in terms of cost and known costs and unknown costs at the moment. It's very difficult to say where that's all going to land. But I think if we can have that discussion as a team prior to the 16th, at least we can go to that meeting on the 16th with a little bit more of a list of priorities and a little bit more information once the officers have got a bit more information together. So be reassured. I'm with you personally on some of these things, as you know. So yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
Can I ask if that's going to be a cross-party team, or is it going to be a Tory party lead on that?
Sorry?
Is that going to be cross-party, then, that meeting?
No. It's just an informal meeting for Leisure Services to get together to look at their budgets.
Leisure Service, which is cross-party.
So to have a look through that, Beth, and just to, amongst ourselves, decide what our priorities are on CapEx and OpEx, so that we can then start to decide, okay, how are we going to come to that meeting on the 16th with our wish list and what priority that has to come in. You'll notice actually the officers, for some of their, what I call operating costs, they've already done that actually in some of the report areas. I think And they've done that, I think, well, for me anyway, they gave me a steer on the approach we should take on the 16th. But we need more information, which they will provide. And we also need time to talk about it as well. So I'll try and set that up.
And could I ask that you don't only look at expenditure, but you also look at potential increases
Oh, no,
to income?
income and expenditure, we were looking at both top and bottom line.
You know,
So,
that leisure centre is where we're going to make the money, I believe.
No, exactly that. And, you know, there will be opportunities there to grow income, which is really important, as well as reduce cost, because there will be opportunities in both areas. But what I'm very keen to see, so especially in leisure services, is that we're delivering as much value to residents. So, you know, Weeble Park, we can't charge people to use Weeble Park, but the value is in the people that use it constantly all the time. The same goes for the new play area that we here with the park. So I want to try and make the good decisions, but there will be some uncomfortable ones, maybe not. So we'll have to see.
And can I just add, we spent a lot of time on Weeble Park, but
If you just spent the money 3 years ago.
very helpful comment, June. On page 46, we haven't got to the capital programme yet, okay, but we're talking about capital. What I would ask, ready for the 16th, at least, that the table on page 46, at the top, you've got priority, which was a priority by officers, all right, just to make that clear. You've got the estimated cost. Can we have potential source of capital? All right, because if we know that, for argument's sake, say the Weeble is from SIL. We know SIL has got quite a degree of control on what you can spend it on. And there might be something else that we need to do that might be considered a higher priority. And so that's what the 16th is about, is to look at those trade-offs, decide where do we do it? You know, if there's no other thing and it still covers it, potentially you're okay. You know, but we have to go through that process.
Just saying, if also if we use our assets, obviously Keys, Mike's been talking about Weeble Park, he's local to that area.
Yeah.
I live in Weeble Drive as well, so I'm local to the area. Also, Yvonne's and Joan spent time walking around, talking to people, residents as well. We also sent an email to Playdale.
We know all this, and we agree, which is why collectively we all said we should be doing this. That predates what we found out now, and that what we found out now collectively over the whole financial situation is putting everything on hold until we can now do some deep dives around this, which is what the 16th is meant to be, to set the priorities that we collectively, in a bipartisan way, want to go forward. So can we move off Weeble Park now? I'll take the last comment from Kay.
I was just going to say that I think we should actually concentrate on the centre of everything is the people of Woodley and the benefit for everybody in Woodley. I know we're looking at the finances, but we must look at the personal effect that it has on the people of Woodley. I think that's all I need to say.
Okay, so my last thing is, are you in agreement in this to be a potential structure?
Yeah.
Do you need a proposer and seconder?
No, that's fine, I think.
Fine, I think, you know, this is, and if you, when you read this and digest it a bit more, you think there's something you want to change or whatever, or add, please let these guys know, so that when the agenda comes, it's not just my thoughts, but it's other people's thoughts as well. Please do that. So, great. Let's move on to the capital now.
Thank you, Chair. So this report is on page 44. It sets out some background on the function of the capital funding pot that the council maintains. Those being the capital programme earmarked reserve, the capital receipts from sale of assets, and the community infrastructure levy received via Woking Borough Council in respect of developments in Woodley, and other earmarked reserves that are set up by resolution of council. There's an update to note on the three current capital projects there on page 44. And on page 45, there's some background relating to one of the report recommendations regarding the funding allocation for the Oakwood Centre pergola. And so that first recommendation relates to the funding that was originally approved was from the capital programme earmarked reserve back in April. However, the balance was at that meeting incorrectly reported as the expenditure for the Oakwood Centre toilet project. The capital expenditure from that had been attributed incorrectly at that time in the accounting system, so it was showing the wrong balance. That has now been rectified, and as such, the approval needs to be amended so that that project is funded from the capital receipt in respect of Silver Fox Crescent, which was £70,000 capital receipt, with the remainder of just under 10,000 coming from the capital programme earmarked reserve. Sorry, that was a bit long-winded, but
It's recommendation 2 on page 46.
It's just that pot. So that's the first recommendation. The table at the bottom of page 45 details some requests for funding for specific projects with funding from available capital balances. Those projects are purchase of a mini digger and mobile work tower for the amenities team. They're doing a lot of manual work, which could be done with the digger and should be done with the digger, and actually their work they probably shouldn't be doing manually. And also the work tower, the old work tower is no longer compliant, so they need that to be doing a lot of the high level work that they do in and around buildings. The second part of the table relating to the Oakwood Centre earmarked reserve is for replacement of a number of business tables. That's these tables. We're down quite a few now. These are around 10 years old, and several of them beyond repair, and we're struggling to service the building with tables, so we've actually got a number of these to replace. And also the replacement of the hanging lights. These are the remaining lights units which you'll see down in the cafe area and in the halls, which are the suspended lighting, which haven't yet been moved over to LED. We've got a number of those actually out now, so that the front of the building is getting dark, so we do need to attend to that, and it's recommended that those projects are funded from the Oakwood Centre earmarked reserve, which was got money put aside for it for those type of projects. The third one relates to Wi-Fi and IT network upgrade up at Woodford Park Leisure Centre, which is part of the system up there, coming under the same IT provider that we've got down here for the network, so that that's properly managed and maintained. And that's a cost of about £4,500 for the new switch gear there and networking to bring that up to spec and make it reliable. Excuse me. There are some future potential projects identified in the table on page 46, which we just talked about, which we'll come back to the next meeting with a recommendation for unallocated or available funding. And the small table at the bottom of page 46 shows 2 residual amounts in completed project earmarked reserve that are proposed to be released back to the general reserve when those projects are complete. So those funds can be released back into that £5,231. So those are recommendations. Any questions?
Questions? Okay, no, any other questions? Alison?
Did we not anticipate we would need to replace all the fire doors?
It wasn't factored in specifically as a project. We did get somebody in to do a full inspection of those, which provided us with a work programme to go through. So we've been putting money into the Oakwood Centre and Woodford Park Leisure Centre buildings reserves for things like that as they come up, but we hadn't identified fire doors specifically.
So we have someone do an annual health and safety inspection, and this year they said, and last year
that's what's flagged.
We were legally compliant.
It wasn't an annual thing. It's been a periodic thing, and we got a professional company to come in and check every element of that, because it's quite
Will
detailed.
we continue then? It obviously seems beneficial to have had a professional come in.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Because that's, I think, more important than the safety of our residents when using our facilities.
Yeah, absolutely.
Any other questions? So just before we go to the recommendations on page 46, can I ask you to provide for the 16th a current list of all earmark reserves? We used to get that in the changeover. It's dropped because from memory, there's probably about a dozen different pots of earmark reserves.
Absolutely.
And I think the councillors should be aware of that and the movement. You know, just like this is useful on page 45, you know, Oakwood Centre earmark. Okay, it's in that.
It's in the last page of the budget appendix, the appendix that was added, so it shows the opening balance and the closing balance. We can definitely give you more details, but it's included in that.
So I hope everyone's got this document that was here today.
It's the budget appendix that was sent alongside the agenda.
That is helpful. Individual project assessment attachment appendix A.
That was circulated and they're on here.
It says individual project assessment.
There are 3 in there.
So you've got one for the mini digger and.
Apologies, I didn't see the others.
It's double-sided on that. Yeah.
Okay, so let's go to the recommendations. We note the contents of the report. Members, item 2, approve the pergola project be refunded from Silver Fox Crescent. All those in favour, please show.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's all of you.
Okay. The third recommendation, I would like that to be a little bit more precise, because it says that members approve the capital project funding allocations as set out in the report. There's about 3 tables. We're talking, so can you be very specific?
So that is specifically in relation to the mini digger, mobile work tower, business tables, lighting, and the network upgrade, which was highlighted or something.
It would be helpful if you put table numbers on. That's the table 1. Okay. So we're familiar. You're aware this is the table on page 45, the bottom table. And we approve that allocations. All those in favour, please show.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's 8, 4. Need to do against and abstentions.
And then the final one, members.
Sorry, Councillor Kennedy indicates we'll need to have against and abstentions.
Oh, sorry, you're right. All of. Okay.
I didn't see your hand up. That's fine. 9, 4.
Member approves the release of the earmark reserve balances. All those in favour for the 5,000 being.
2. That's 9, 4.
So, just before I move on to the next item, do you really need, for something like this, £5,000, do you really need to bring it? I'm just throwing it out to see what people think, that you can't put it back until we've approved it?
Under the current financial regulations, that's what it states,
option.
because it's allocated through through
That's
resolution and likewise for the money coming back.
Is that our financial regulations or is it?
It sounds,
legal?
but I think it's good practice.
Okay.
Fine.
Not a problem.
Sees that and approves it.
So item 11, which is the youth services recommendations.
So there are 3 recommendations there from Leisure Services Chair. One in relation to youth services with regard to funding. I'll just read out the Strategy and Resources Committee, whilst noting the £1,500 reduction in costs, which was to do with the youth club starting later than anticipated. Continue to consider the recommendation to provide an additional £5,030 to fund the provision of a leadership training course, allowing the subcommittee to reallocate that £1,500 for additional holiday activities for young people. So that was the first resolution. Secondly was the one.
Just take them one at a time.
Yes, of course.
So is this factored into what you've put? Is this from this year budget?
This is not factored in. So this would be funded from the general reserve. Essentially, at the point in July, when the committee first considered, they agreed the service they wanted to provide from within the £15,000 budget for the year, but there was an additional training course that they wanted to provide. So at Leisure in July, Leisure recommended, based on the subcommittee's recommendation, that an extra £5,030 be provided. Obviously, because S&R in September didn't take place, that couldn't be decided, and obviously that's coming here now after the youth club has now started late, and we now know that there's a £1,500 reduction in that cost because of that, which just changes the inference on it ever so slightly. Within budget, there's another £1,500 that could be spent on that if another 3,500 was provided, but that would be funded from the general reserve.
Can I make a proposal that this one is deferred to the 16th? Because I think it would be inappropriate for, this is just my view, you may have a different view. This is just another one to go into the melting pot to decide on the 16th. Are there any dissenting views on that? Okay.
Okay, thank you, Chair. I think likewise with item B, which was in relation to Weeble Park, which we've already discussed.
Can I just, yeah, I agree, we've discussed it. What I would like to do is for this committee just to reiterate our support, subject to it being able to be funded appropriately for the Weeble Park play area. Do we need to vote on that? I thought we had better.
It would be helpful if you voted to defer that to the next.
I'll propose it. Do I need a seconder? Juliet? All those in favour? 3, 4, 5, 6. Allotments rent review.
Yes, so allotments rent. This item was considered at the last Leisure Services Committee, a recommendation to this committee. Historically, that had come straight to Strategy and Resources, not been considered by Leisure at all, which was an oddity, which I considered it didn't quite seem right. So the recommendation here is to increase the standard allotment rate, plot rate, in line with the September RPI rate of 4.5% from September, which is historically how we've calculated increases to that. That's for just to note, that's for rents taking effect from January 2027, because that decision is made with a year in advance in order to comply with the requirements of the Allotments Act. So we do that well in advance, so it's always set that much further ahead. Just to note as well that other rates are calculated as a fixed percentage based on from that standard rate. So non-resident rates, for example, are 50% above the standard rate. Pensioner rates are 25% discount from that rate. So it's just applied to that standard plot rate.
So, quick question for you. The RPI increase, is that a Woodley Town Council requirement or is it a legal requirement?
I know that's something that we've done historically. It's gone up by more than that in some years. Sometimes our RPI has been
so again. I think
higher, but
we need to consider that, particularly from a competitive perspective. And I know the reports you've done in the past have shown you what other councils are charging, and if we are way under them.
The report to Leisure did include that.
They had that. Okay.
Yeah.
Can I just ask, do we know how many are older people that get this discounted rates that actually have plots?
We do. I don't have that breakdown handy now. I can circulate that. We do have a breakdown of residents, non-residents, and pension
huge
discounts.
proportion, then that's a significant loss of income. Which is fine if we're happy with that, but you know.
So we need to vote on this. All those in favour, please show. Everybody? I think that's everybody.
That's 9-4.
Okay. Moving on. Woodley Town Centre Partnership. Page 53. I wasn't at the meeting, so this is just to receive the reports. 53 and 56. Any particular questions that might be able answered from people who were at the meeting? No? Okie dokie, so that's just receiving. I just would like to note that I'm very disappointed with the Borough Council putting out a strategy. Thank you, Greg, for alerting us all to it without actually sharing a draft with the Town Council or the Town Centre Management Partnership or the Town Centre Manager. That doesn't bode well for the future. Greg, I know you're in, if you could feed that back.
I will, yeah.
We need to be part of that process to review the draft for what is going to be our town centre strategy.
I did bring that up at the meeting, actually, to say that it's Woodley, not a Wokingham, and we are different, and we need to be treated properly.
It's interesting, I know, because you alerted me, I went and had a look at it.
Yeah.
Quite a few of the things that the Borough Council was saying, well, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. They said, are all things we're doing.
Yes,
or
already.
have already done,
Yes.
got in plan, with
Yes.
no recognition. You know, give us the money back then.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's moving on. PR and Marketing Subcommittee, page 59. Juliet, do you want to introduce this or anything as the chair?
Yeah, I'm happy to. Just please have a read, and if there are anything, this is from the 14th of July at 2 p.m. Please ask any questions you have, and I do think we need to set up another meeting, Kevin, and please.
Not in the day.
Yep.
Okay, I just.
Yep.
It was brought to my attention yesterday that there's a consultation exercise or meeting at 4 p.m. on the 29th of November, which is asking Woodley residents to attend to give their ideas about what they'd like to see. But I noticed in at least my diary, it seems to clash with the Christmas Carol concert at 4:30 p.m.
We have changed the time and got some comms out today in relation to that to bring the time forward so that people are able to attend that and then go on to the Christmas lights. So thank you for
What time is it?
3 o'clock.
Okay.
3 o'clock.
With such short notice, do we think we're going to get many attendees?
We're doing what we can to get those communications out. Admittedly, it's fairly short notice, so we'll see how that goes. I think the thing to bear in mind is it's very important, but it's not doesn't exist in isolation. It needs to be part of that longer term consultation and public engagement. So
can I ask, why is it such short notice? Did we only just decide to do this?
No.
Because I didn't know anything about it.
No, it was more a case of trying to schedule that and get that information or wherever we can from that before the next the SNR meeting as well, to see if we can glean some more information
It
from
was
that.
recommended as part of the package that included a consultation postcard.
Yes, I know we were going to do it, but I didn't understand the urgency to do it like in a week's time.
I think it could have been done better. June?
Just in terms of responses, you know the survey, and we had 1,000 people respond to it. Is it possible to identify where they've come from and email them to let them know? Because there are obviously people who are interested, or is it all anonymised?
It was anonymised, except by postcode.
Just a thought.
Yes.
Okay. The only comment I have for you, Julia, is you and I have talked about this, is monitoring the effectiveness of our PR campaign. You know, it's one thing just to pump out press releases, and they can be tip-top press releases, but if they don't actually have any impact, if they're not actually used, that's very important.
Which is why I think we need to have another meeting fairly quickly, actually.
So I wonder if that next meeting you look at maybe putting a specific item in the terms of reference. So it's there, it's solid.
Yeah, I'm happy with that.
Okay.
You could make a recommendation to add it. I think one of the recommendations under from the meeting was to review the terms of reference. There was an addition in there. So if you wanted to make that recommendation to add that into there now, you could do that and wrap it all up today.
Alison?
We also need to ensure that the officers monitoring the delivery of the Herald. I only received mine at the weekend, and it was promoting attending Climate Week, promoting coming to Remembrance Day. It was delivered far too late. And having asked some councillors, they also received it this late.
Yeah.
I don't know
Some
when you got
haven't
yours.
even received it.
Yeah.
And that was the same with the consultation card as well. It wasn't received by some residents. Don't know how many, I don't know the scope of that, but that is not getting the service that we paid for. That's Royal Mail, isn't it?
Yes.
Right. So do we need to formally recommend?
There's a recommendation on that. If you want to do the additional, to add monitoring into it, we can add that, yeah.
So I propose,
We're monitoring effectiveness and impact.
Yeah.
To use those two words, that would be lovely.
do you want to propose it as
You
chair?
can, it's fine.
And I'll second it. All those in favour? Good.
It's 9-4.
PR and marketing is going to be even more important as we try to
Absolutely.
bring income in, etc.
And it
Really.
needs to be everybody's business as well, not just
Yeah.
one person.
Okay. So the next one is Standing Orders and Financial Regulations Subcommittee. There's some recommendations, page 67. Do you want to talk through these? Because you've put them together.
I can do, yeah. So obviously, under the standing orders, we've got a number of recommendations, not as many as we've had in the past, getting quite close to obviously only just tweaking it when we needed. Number of recommendations just to tweak elements of the standing orders to cover off issues that have been raised in the last sort of 6 to 9 months. Does anyone have any specific questions on the issues? We've tried to follow the same format rather than providing the whole standing orders with updates in the document, which gets very unwieldy. We tried to just provide this format, this pro form, which shows you what the issue was encountered, what considerations were needed, and the recommended change. Does anyone have any questions on the standing orders elements first, specifically, which are on pages 67 through to, can't get the pages turned.
71.
71 is, 71.
So very quickly, item 1 is to address an omission about 6 months attendance rule, just expands it. That in the past it was considered you had to be attend a standing committee, yet you're busy attending lots of other committees. That expands that. The item 2 is following up on a full council request to have descriptions of roles of council leader, town mayor, political group leaders. There. Item 3 is setting out a process because WBC now have opened up their agenda with a section, a 10-minute section for town and parish council questions, which usually means you'll get one because it's 3 minutes for response and 3 minutes for the supplementary. Well, it's a little bit less. You really only get one, so I don't see the point, but never mind. We have got a process. Mike?
Can I suggest, Chairman, that there is an item on the full council agenda that says questions to Woking Borough Council. Even if we don't have any questions, at least it's there as an aid memoir each time we meet as a full council, that if there isn't a question, we have that
Is that
opportunity.
generally supported? I think it's a good idea.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mike.
I can work that into this as an option as well as this process in the standing orders.
Yeah, that's good.
So, and then issue 4 was some clarifying or removing a contradiction. Okay, do you want to take those first?
Yeah, you can do, yeah.
All those in favour, please show.
Everyone, yeah, 9-4.
And now I'll leave financial recommendations, whoever wants to.
Yeah, I can pick that up. I mean, there were a lot of, I won't cover them. There are a lot of issues in there. I mean, the changes really were to remove any ambiguity that we thought was in there, increase any transparency by adding additional detail where we thought there wasn't enough. There was some expansion of the regs where certain subjects were just maybe part of a sentence, so I think they warranted a section of their own. So that a number of those are in point 19. There's 5 sections there, and the biggest addition was the tabulation of the financial scheme of delegation at the back was a table that formally sets out the limits in one place, so you don't have to go hunting for them throughout the document. So it was really just to give it a good overhaul and move it in the right direction.
And just to say, from our point of view, I think also it's been really helpful having a fresh pair of financial eyes internally on it and trying to tweak those things that might have been there for years that we've had a bit of oversight. It's really been helpful.
All those in favour?
That's 9-4, thank you.
So we now move on to the community grants. I think this is fairly straightforward to tidy up that you can only receive one grant from the council of any type of financial year. Planning Community Committee that own this process, I believe. No, it's you. That's us. Okay. I've already changed the same. Approved it.
They've got annual grants, so we've got 3 grants.
Okay.
That's fine.
That's right. So, do we have to have a discussion on it? No? Okay, all those in favour, please show. Good.
Yeah, that's 9-4.
Now we've got some to approve. Has anybody got any issues over any specific requests, or can we just take them on mass?
Just obviously to make one clarification on here, I mean, obviously they've been set out in the same format. The budget for the year was £3,000, and following the awarding of grants by this committee in April, there's £1,440 left in the budget for this financial year. So if all grants below were approved, this would be an overspend against the budget of £460.
I would suggest that's okay.
The collection box.
But get a credit card machine.
I got one, I just didn't think to bring it.
Right. So are we happy with this, including the £460? All those in favour, please show.
3, 4, 5. Yeah, it's all 9-4.
Okay. Next one is scheduled meetings, page 87. A typo correction.
Yeah, I've got a couple of.
Can I just do the typo correction?
Yeah.
Strategy and resources isn't on the 19th of June, it's the 9th of June. Somebody had figure trouble.
It's a typo, sorry, my fault, apologies.
What date is it?
It's the 9th.
Just
Take the one off, take the one off.
Yeah.
Greg?
That was the first one. The second question was, in the bottom right-hand corner of page 87, it makes reference to elections on the 7th of May, which I understand. I wasn't sure what elections on the 6th of May was referring to.
Well, we couldn't do 2 in 2 days.
7th of May is the working borough, isn't it?
Oh, that's the next year.
And 6th May is the town council one.
Historically, we've always shown, so this is the format we provided, but it's the elections the following, it's showing when the elections take place each year.
Right, okay, thank you.
But that 7th of May 26 will be the borough, which incurs a cost to us, doesn't it?
Depends if there's anyone within the borough. I think there isn't there. There normally is, Kevin. Yeah. I'm just trying to think because the way they do it in thirds, there's always someone.
There
so
is.
Yes.
The whole of Woodley.
Do we receive some income when they use Woodford Leisure Centre or the Coronation Hall as a polling station?
Don't believe we do we, Kevin? I think it's they have to use the buildings.
they have a right to requisition it for that purpose.
Well, yeah, they've got a right, they don't have a right to requisition for anything, do they?
That happens across, I know my father who manages a church, they basically, the local borough, he's in turn up and say that we're using that on that day. And it's a bit, you have to make it available.
I've been on the working groups trying to find alternative polling stations. If the school says no, you can't force them.
Can we even take it away and look at it? Because if, for instance, if they're using Coronation Hall, well, they do, Coronation Hall, that's potentially a loss of income.
Yes.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
And periodically, we've talked about bringing the meetings forward by half an hour to 7:30. Have we given that a miss?
What's the current view? I'm ambivalent to it.
I would propose we put that on the agenda for full council because I think it's worthy of debate. Because 8 o'clock does mean if we can't go later than 10 o'clock really. When we do push to 10:30, it's late for everybody. The borough always meets at 7. So 7 or 7:30, I would be very pleased to see.
Take it as a.
Do I have a second for that?
Yeah, I'm happy.
I finish work at 7.
Good. That's of interest. Okay, so accessibility statement, if you can say it. I guess that's you, Kevin, is it?
Matthew's done the letter.
Oh, yes, no. So we're doing some work at the moment. So as part of the AGAR, they're introducing a new assertion for next year, which encompasses a number of things, including GDPR, IT policy, and web accessibility. So we're doing some work in terms of improving our website's accessibility by getting it redesigned. Whilst it looks okay on the surface, there's loads of accessibility issues behind the scenes. So people that use screen readers can't understand it and things. As part of a company that's helping us to develop the new website, we've had to review our accessibility statement for that. It's an operational, it's a legal requirement to have that on the website. So this has been rewritten with them. It follows the government standard template for accessibility. Kevin approved it a few weeks ago, and that will go on our website. So it's really just for this committee to clock that accessibility statement, which is one of our key policies, exists, has been approved, and will be on the new website when that goes live, hopefully by the middle of December.
On bottom of page 88, where you say it was approved, shouldn't you also have a line that says it was approved by Statutory Resources Committee?
This is just because it's an operational legal requirement. The understanding is that obviously the town clerk gives it its approval and doesn't necessarily get approved directly by the committee. The committee needs to note it because the importance of the when the assertion comes in the AGAR next year is you've got
required to make that assertion.
The assertion that during the year you are aware that the website and the efforts we've made to make it accessible. So it's part of that.
That's good. 18, CCTV policy.
So that's to approve that draft CCTV policy, which is a requirement under legislation in line with guidance from the Information Commissioner's Office. It's a general policy covering the council's CCTV covered sites, which is this building, Woodford Park Leisure Centre, and now obviously the town centre. So it covers those 3 sites. I don't think there's any questions.
I have page 93, there's a line that's highlighted green. Any particular reason for that?
There was at the time, but there isn't now.
Okay. And also bottom of 5.1, appropriate signage is in place, clear and legible. Have we actually got our signage up? Because I don't seem to have seen it.
It is for everywhere except the town centre one, and that's because that's not operational yet. The signage will be up before that goes live.
And when will that be going live?
Waiting for power to the key column from which the others run. It was tested. They bought a generator to test it when they did the installation, and I know both Brian and myself were just chasing for that date for that power to be.
No, things are.
No, it's for the replacement.
Great.
Is that the borough?
We have the signs. They're ready to go, but they're actually.
It's from the Nikons. It's the same issue, similar to issue to getting them stuff done for Halloween, etc. Can you have a word in silence, shall I?
Yeah.
Please. You can be our Rottweiler. Town Council's Rottweiler today. Borough Council.
Which officer is it that needs to be?
It's Warwick Heskins, I think, because he took charge of
Improving.
improving.
And the street lighting officer, which is,
Well, Greg and I together, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
And Kate, making
Okay,
bipartisan
and,
sense. Just set those something.
Already in bad with him because I phoned and told him that Woodley was more important and we were already doing things.
So I need to, sorry.
So that's a good question. In the 6.2 table of authorised personnel for viewing, we've got quite a lot of people in the venues team, the office team. So do all members of staff who will be viewing, do they sign some kind of code of conduct? Are there some strict rules about this?
yeah, and to have received a copy of the policy and have read it, because there's a lot of things around GDPR which are obviously requirements for that. They have sight of the system, but not access to recordings. So there's different levels of access, and part of that's for security and just monitoring day to day while what's actually happening around the building. But in terms of access to the data, that's limited to what's in stuff.
It's a bit broader, venues team. Who's in the venues team? You know, I know it's just by viewing, but you know, Johnny comes on the work period, allocated to the venues team. Johnny's got access.
Although actually for visual purposes, for the system that's down the front, they will, because it's visible as part of.
Okay.
You can't do anything with it though, it's just
No,
viewing.
they can't access it or
Well, they can
they won't
talk.
take any information from.
Did you guess what I saw?
Help with film at the same time.
Record it.
Okay, so you're confident that little Johnny's not going to be using social media to say, I saw Mrs. Joe.
I am, yeah, and yes, all joking aside, staff would be supervised if they were.
It's the confidentiality, isn't it? We just need to make sure that they understand it.
That's part of the introduction.
Okay. All those in favour, please show. Did I do that? I can't remember. We need to approve the CCTA.
Oh.
I'm
It's all
supposed
for
to,
brilliant.
I understand the question.
Brilliant.
Right. Any future agenda items?
Can I ask that we consider bus services in Woodley? So it might be referred to full council, but there's a big review going on at the borough, which commences, I think it's starting in January. And we've had a discussion at the planning committee about bus services, but I think this is an ongoing thing that as a council we should all have an input into and come to a view about things that we'd like to see. And so bus services and a review, and also I'd like to bring a discussion about Woodley Town Centre regeneration as well, because the borough, as we've said earlier, they want to start things, but we should really, as a council, have a discussion and form our own view about what we would like to see. Make sure, yeah.
That particular agenda item, which I totally agree with you, because I think you know my views. It has to be in the context of what has been published as the Woodley Town Centre strategy published.
Right.
You know, it's not draft, it's not out for consultation, it's published. I'm not sure whether we can actually get anything to change in it, but
Well,
yes, by all means, we ought to,
Yeah.
even if it's only to register the town council's concerns.
And there is an action plan as well.
I know.
But I think it's, for me, it's more about how we can find a way to work more collaboratively with them, because clearly
Yeah.
that's not the remit at the minute. So if we can go into it saying, not that we objected this, that and the other, but let's co-produce some of this, let's collaborate on some of this, I think we're going to have more chance of influencing
Just
some
to
of
put it
this.
in context, they did come and presented some views, which I thought, this is good, beginning of collaboration. And then suddenly, if Greg hadn't put that on social media, I wouldn't have done.
No, but that's it, isn't it? So
And
now
can
we
we see
know.
any change?
Yeah.
June?
Just what Greg was saying about the bus consultation. And I wasn't at that meeting because I'm not on planning anymore, but I watched it. And you were there, weren't you, Kay, I think? Were you there? And certainly David was anyway. And the guys had turned up from Wokingham and produced a pack of material, which was quite dense. And then it's sort of like, well, what do you think? And Kevin sent it all out to us, all of us, afterwards to, have a look at it. And I watched the meeting and I read all the material. And I thought, well, and then on the back page, there's a whole sort of series of questions they're asking, including, how are we going to pay for this? And I thought, well, I haven't got enough information here to make a useful sort of comment. I mean, I did have a go, Kevin, and I thought, this is, like, I haven't got enough information to go on. And I was relieved to hear that nobody else commented on it either, but I thought it just was a bit kind of an odd way of them to approach it. I got the understanding from it that there'd been a tranche of consultation with disabled groups and various groups. Stage 2 was to talk to village and towns. I don't quite know why we were 2, but there is a third stage of consultation in the new year. So again, if we have the opportunity to have a look at this in a forum and come back with some sort of response to it. One of the things they asked in the questions was, how does this line up with your policy on transport? And I thought, oh, have we got one? The only things I could find was that in our climate emergency pack, policy thing, we do say that we think public transport is a good thing. And funnily enough, in the very old Woodley design document, there's a little reference in there to how we see the sort of precinct as being a transport hub, but that's about all the policy we've got. And again, it's one of those things that there's no point us getting into nth level of detail, but it's just having some principles. And I think that applies to quite a lot of the stuff we do. And that's why I'm sort of looking forward to what we're going to do on the budget, to actually start talking about like what we're here for and what are our priorities, because it just makes it so much easier for us to respond, because we know what we think before we've started, and we've got a place to start. Whereas actually to be asked at a planning meeting to digest this whole bunch of stuff on behalf of the whole council, and not really have any thinking time to do it, because as I say, they brought it to the meeting, it wasn't circulated.
And you know what they'll say? Tick, we've done the consultation with Woodley Town Council. That's exactly what they'll do.
Well, we're not in a position really to cast stones when we've given Woodley residents less than a week's notice that we're having a consultation meeting on Saturday. So I don't think we can get too pious about it. But I think the issue is, isn't it, that yes, consultation can be a box ticking exercise, but frankly, it's a waste of ratepayers' money to do that. You know, you do it properly, I don't bother, because it's just. So that's really just
picking up on that, and picking up on what Mike asked for in a full council agenda item, the 10-minute town parish. Well, I think we've got our first question. Why have you not consulted properly in a timely fashion with the town council on the bus strategy and on the town centre strategy? Why not?
Could we make that into a positive? It's just
continued collaboration.
It's just moaning, but so what we want to do is ask, this hasn't worked for us. This is what we think should have happened. And are we going to get an opportunity to
I personally totally disagree with you, June. You know, they are treating us, and they've done this for 10 years, even when my party was in control, all right? It's not party political thing. They treat this council abominably. We have to, many times, we step in to do things that they do not do. And just sort of saying, well, it didn't work, etc. I can tell you exactly what the officers will do. Great. Heard you. Next.
Well,
You're not going to get things changed.
I think
But
it's
that's
a
my view.
mistake. I think it's a mistake to sort of personalise it, because at the end of the day, it might make us feel better, but it doesn't actually help matters for people in Woodley.
I don't understand how it's personalising it. Sorry.
So, you know, that we're collectively offended that this hasn't happened. I think we just have to come with something quite straightforward that we want them to do. And then if they choose not to do it, then that's something we can share with Woodley residents.
Alison has the
See, at the borough, when we're on a committee of scrutiny or whatever, if officers turned up with a massive document, we'd had no time to read in advance to prepare some questions. We'd have sent them back, said, well, you have to come to the next meeting. Yeah. Which is what I think you should have done at the planning meeting. Said, we councillors need time to consider this, and I would certainly ask a question, because I'd be surprised if the director at the borough knew that the officers had done that, and I certainly do not think the leader of the council would be happy to know about that. And if they're doing that to all parish and town councils, then perhaps they'll have to extend the consultation to do it properly. And that's not personal. No. And we're not personally offended. We all want to do our job properly for the benefit of the residents, and we've got to be enabled to do that.
But if we're getting feedback, I think we also need to look at that last sheet on their pack, which had these kind of nebulous questions, and which was pretty much impossible to
Well, I wouldn't be surprised if they asked if you'd like to give some of Woodley Town Council's SIL money towards it. They normally do.
Good. Right. Call the meeting. We'll
Publicity website. Last item, publicity
Oh,
website,
sorry,
Chair.
publicity website, anything? No? Right, good news. Thank you very, very much. This has been a very difficult but interesting meeting. We've all behaved ourselves, including you. I don't say that.
Would anyone like to know about Rule 20?